Welcome to the Stoned Roadie Show again, the Stoned Roadie Show with Craig Reed. Of course, Craig Reed is the most famous roadie in rock and roll history. And if not the most famous roadie, the most stoned roadie in rock and roll history. Today, we have a really special guest on, and a lot of people have been curious about this guy here, and they've heard about him, and they probably haven't seen him too much because he kind of hangs back in the back of the background a lot of times. But this is Dwayne Easley we have with us today, and Dwayne was a really big part of the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash. He was the first responder to the plane crash when it went down, and he was pivotal in rescuing all the guys off the plane. And then later on, they got reunited through the help of Mark Frank, and later on, Dwayne, who was a really great guy, donated some land for a monument, and they have a really beautiful monument up in Galesburg, Mississippi, and we're going to talk about that. Thanks for joining us this morning, Dwayne. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, so Dwayne's kind of like back in the woods back there, and he's got a limited connection, you know, up there in Galesburg. And if you haven't ever been to Galesburg, it's really remote, and it's like a lot of farmland. So we might have a little bit of a bad connection. So Dwayne, it's been a long time since that Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash. We're coming up, I guess, on the 45th year, is it?
Right, 45th this year.
Yeah, it'd be October, right? You
right,
guys,
October 20th.
October 20th, yeah. You guys have anything planned coming up at the monument this year at all, or is that COVID still got you kind of down?
We're not able to officially sponsor big gatherings of people, but there's people here every year anyway, a lot of people sometimes, and you know, it's open to the public, and hopefully we'll have some of the road crew back this year, so there'll be something going on here. Should be a number of folks here.
Yeah, I know. I went up there when it was opening, when you guys had the unveiling, and there's like a lot of things that were going on. There were like some people playing guitar under a little pavilion. Was that your place, that little pavilion up there that everybody kind of hangs out
that's
at?
my key.
Yeah, and that's not that far from the actual site, the actual plane crash site.
Yeah, it's not that far, maybe 500 yards.
Yeah, 500 yards. So back in October 20th, when in 1977, when did you notice the plane flying over?
No, I didn't. And I didn't see, in fact, actually where it crashed, nobody would have been able to actually see it crash, but the plane flew over my aunt and uncle's house, and they called us. It wasn't, you know, engines weren't running. They knew it was coming down, and they knew it was coming toward our house. So that's how we found out about it.
Yeah. So who told you about it? Did somebody tell you about it, like on the phone, or they come up and tell you? How'd you find out?
Well, me and my buddy Wayne Blaze were at my mother and dad's house, and actually the helicopter flew over really low, coming from the north to the south. I made a comment about how low he was, and then the phone rang. My mother answered the phone, and she immediately told us that there's a plane going down somewhere behind our house. So that's when we first heard about it. We didn't know who they were, but we jumped up and ran around to other side of the place, and I'd say within not more than 30 minutes of the time it crashed, we were there. Maybe 20 minutes. We were there at the crash.
So how did you see it because the helicopter was flying over the top of it, and that's how you were able to tell where it was?
Yeah, the helicopter went out of sight, went out of hearing, and went to the south. And then while we were over trying to figure out where to look, we heard it coming back, and it was making circles and had a big giant spotlight. And then when he stopped and hovered, we knew that was it.
Oh, okay. Was it pretty dark by then? Is it already dark, or was it still dusk?
It was dusk. I could see people. I had some guys hauling hay in the field. I could see them. But once you got in the woods, it's dark. You know, it gets dark with the trees and all. By the time we made it to the plane, it was dark in the woods, but the spotlight was really bright, and it was like daytime there at the crash.
Oh, so when you first arrived there, what were your first thoughts when you saw the plane? Did it look like a really big plane, or did it seem like a smaller plane? What were your thoughts when you first saw it?
Well, we thought it was going to be a small plane like a Cessna because they fly over here a lot. You want to Baton Rouge from Macomb. But when we broke through the thick bushes and I saw that plane, I just went, man, that's really big. I had no idea it was going to be something that big. So it was a big surprise to see that.
And when you walked up to it, were you kind of like trying to figure out, could you tell the parts of the plane? Like, was it recognizable to you as far as where would you start looking for people, or what was your first thoughts as what to do whenever you arrived there?
Well, actually, the main part of the plane was very much intact. Really, the front of the plane, of course, was crushed from the impact, but the plane itself was, and it was split on the side where I don't know if it's where the wing tore off or what, but it was split about 7 feet across and 6 feet high, and I could see a hand sticking out that. You know, the hand was moving. Could hear people inside the plane going, help, get me out of here, you know, that sort of thing. So that's the first thing we saw. When I walked around the front of the plane and looked, I saw one other guy over there. I don't know who. There was probably 4, 5, 6 of us got there about the same time. But anyway, so after just a minute, I climbed up on the side and peeled that wreckage part back, and that's when I could see the people inside for the first time.
Was there anyone was there anyone walking around outside the plane that was on the plane when you got there?
I didn't see anybody. We came in from the east. The plane was facing, you know, pointing north when it crashed. So we came in on the east side. I didn't see anybody walking around, but I think the ones that were walking around may have been on the west side of the plane.
Were you able to like go inside the plane, almost like, I know it was probably crushed and things like that, but were you able to go inside the fuselage and walk around at all?
Well, yeah, whenever it was split in an L shape, and I was able to bend that part back, and then somebody on the ground put up a really long tree limb, I guess, and we propped it open. So once we propped it open, I crawled down inside, and I could see, you know, 3 or 4 people really well then, but so I started trying to pull them out by myself, and I thought they were stuck. I couldn't pull them out. I just tried 2 or 3 people, and after, I don't know how long it was, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, Gerald Wall climbed up there with me, and he said, we got to get these out. I said, I've been trying. I can't, they're stuck. He said, well, they got on seatbelts, cut the seatbelts. So I don't know why I didn't think of that, but once we started cutting seatbelts, we could pull them out.
Was it pretty dark in there? Did you have a flashlight, or how were you able to see?
Well, once I peeled that metal back, the light from the spotlight was just really bright. It was almost like daylight in there. It was.
Oh,
You
so
could see it really good then.
the spotlight from the helicopter is how you were able to see inside?
Oh yeah, yeah, made it like daylight.
And whenever you tried to pull the first person out, was anybody conscious, or were they just knocked out, or how did they seem to be as far as when you grabbed the first person?
Oh yeah, they were conscious. Of course, I saw one that was deceased immediately, but you know, they were all conscious and able to ask for help. You know, but you could tell they were groggy. But I mean, it just had a bunch of brain trauma by hitting the ground like that. You know, the crash itself, and they were slurring their words a little bit, but yeah, they were conscious.
Did you have any idea who they were at the time? Did they seem like a bunch of hippies, and you were like, who are these hippies here? Is that what you thought?
Exactly what I said. Well, I was expecting to just see normal people, regular people, I guess you'd say. Now, I saw beards and long hair, and no, I didn't know who they were until, well, the rescue was completely over, and we had them loaded up, going to the hospital. Some kid walked up to me and asked me if I knew who they were, and I said no. He said, "This is the Lynyrd Skynyrd band." I said, "Well, that explains the look like hippies."
Did you know who the Lynyrd Skynyrd band was at the time, or is it something that you found out later who they were?
I knew their songs. I liked their songs. I was 26 years old. I liked their music. I'd never seen a picture of them. And I was just like a lot of other people in this part of the world. I thought Lynyrd Skynyrd was the lead singer. I didn't know.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people thought, you know, I mean, because, you know, it didn't make sense. Their name didn't really make sense anyway, so nobody knew what to think about it. But how long did it take you to pull everybody out of the plane, that you felt like you got everybody out of there and that everybody was free from the wreckage as far as the survivors? And was that quite a long period of time that went by?
Well, it seems like forever, you know, in one way, and in another way, it seemed like it didn't really take that long. But I've told a lot of people, I had no concept of the time. I just had no concept of how long it took. I don't even really know now, because it seemed like forever though.
Did you have plenty of help, or was there very few people around? Was there a significant amount of people to help you, or did you feel like you didn't have enough help? What was the situation as far as that goes?
I think there was maybe a dozen people right up at the plane. There were four of us that actually went inside. It was me, Gerald Wall, Jamie Wall, and Dennis Wilson. We went in and we handed the people out to the guys standing on the ground. But I didn't see more than 10 or 12 guys. And when, after it was over with, I came down and looked, I could see on the other side, then they had people roped off. They wouldn't let them close to the plane. It looked like hundreds of people, but not that many actually doing the rescue, because I learned later that law enforcement was afraid the plane might catch on fire if they had a cigarette or something like that. So it really wound up being not a whole lot of folks actually involved in the rescue itself.
How did you get the survivors, the people on the plane, how did you get them out of that wooded area to a place where you could transport them to the hospital?
Well, we just loaded them up, had some stretchers. I don't know where they came from, but there they were, and we put them on stretchers, and we had to wade across the creek, and which was about 3 or 4 feet deep. And there was some ambulance, and actually we put some in trucks and put some in a van, and whatever there was out there, and they took them to the hospital.
Did it seem like you made quite a few trips doing that? Was it a lot of trips through that creek for you?
No, no, it wasn't. We actually took the first stretcher across, and we put that in the van because there was not an ambulance at that part of the field. So when we came back across the creek, I figured I'd help get some more out, but I guess a bunch of guys that was in the crowd watching, once we picked up that first stretcher, bunch of guys came in and picked up stretchers, and we got them all out. In other words, I think everybody made one trip. That's what it looked like. When I came back, there was nobody to pick up.
So then once everybody was out of there, and was it like really late at night when you went home, and did you feel like, I did a great day's work getting these people out? I imagine you were tired, and you were probably wondering the outcome of things. And the next day when you saw on the news, what were your thoughts the next day, like when you saw the news about the whole thing?
Well, I mean, I saw the news, but I was there, so I didn't really need to see what the news people said about it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. A lot of people want to know what we saw, the 4 of us that was inside the plane. And it was not really something we felt like we need to talk about to each other.
Right.
We do tell people because they want to know. But we were there. We didn't need to see the news, but I learned a lot more about the band with the news. I didn't know any of the names or anything, and I got to know who they were through the news.
How much time went by over the years before you actually met anybody from the plane crash?
Well, actually, Artemis Fowl came back. I don't know if it was the next year or 2 years. I think it was the next year after on the anniversary. Him and another guy, and another girl, and a girl. I don't remember who they were, but he actually did come back, and I met him. We wound up at my sister's house, and we talked for a while. I think he came back. I don't know if he came back 2 years. Somebody else came back another year, I think. But it's been so long ago, and I really wasn't. I thought it was over with. I didn't really submit it to memory about the names, but I know for a fact Artemis did come back.
So Artemis was the first person that you talked to actually later on after the plane crash. I don't think many people realize that that Artemis came back relatively soon after the plane crash. So then a lot of time went by, right? Didn't Mark Frank get in touch with you guys? And that was about what, 5 years ago, was it, or longer?
Yeah, about probably 5. It would have been 2018. I think it was 2018 when we started having get-togethers at my camp on the anniversary every year. I think it started around 2014, maybe. Then it just be a number of people that would get together and maybe go to the site, But then in 2018, we had Mark Frank. I believe it was Mark Frank, Steve Lawyer, Paul Welch, Mark Howard, and Gene Odom. Hope I didn't leave anybody out, but we had a big gathering that year and at my camp, and that's when actually Mark Frank made the comment. We were all sitting around talking. He said most famous plane crashes have marker or sign of some kind that marking the spot or the location anyway. So everybody just kind of looked at each other and said, yeah, why hadn't we done that? We hadn't thought about it. So we started talking about it. People started talking. People started donating money, and before we knew it, it took exactly a year. A year later, we put the monument up that we have now.
And actually, where the plane had crashed, that was owned by another gentleman. Who owned that at the time? Was it the same guy that owns it now?
No, actually, it was on the very backside of our family property. We didn't know that for years. We thought it was the timber company that owned it, but my brother inherited that part. He sold it, had it surveyed, but once he had it surveyed, we could see that the plane actually did crash on our property. Not that it makes any difference, but we didn't know it for a long time. So, but anyway, the guy that bought the property, from my brother, he's, for liability reasons, he don't want people on his property. Right.
Yeah. And so that's why it's a good idea to have that monument for people to go and pay their respects. And so how did you get to a position where you decided to form a committee of people to come together and make decisions on how to create a monument?
Well, there was several of us that were talking about it in earnest, I guess you say, and we tried to deal with the state to begin with. We just really were going to put up a sign, like a blues trail sign, but they kind of basically turned us down a couple of times, and people were already giving money, so we had to go with it. And that's when one of the guys, Bobby McDowell, he came to me, asked me what I thought about putting it on private property and doing away with the state, all the red tape. And I said, yeah, let's do that. Let's get rid of the state. So that's what we did. That's when we just made that decision.
And you were actually the one that donated the piece of land that it's on, isn't that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And that was a really great thing for you to do, Dwayne. And it's a very honorable thing. And I've been there, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful land, very easily to access. And as far as the actual monument itself, how did you guys come up with the idea of what you wanted to put on the monument, and then what you wanted to say? Was it somebody that was pretty creative, or did you guys just kind of like think of it together and come to a consensus of how you wanted to do it? Or, I mean, how did that happen?
Well, we put together a little group of, I guess you call them scholars. Ken Morris was one of them. Oh man, I can't think right offhand. Of course, Mike Rounsel was, and they put together the wording, and we just let them do it. I mean, they as a team worked together, and they came up with the wording.
You had to have like some really heavy equipment to set that, like maybe a crane. How did you get those big carvings in there like that?
Well, Brookhaven Monuments, one the company that did it, and they came in with a crane, and they came in with a big crane and set it down.
Yeah, and you guys had like a really big concrete slab poured, and sidewalks and steps, and that's all a lot of people don't realize. There's a lot of red tape to that, because people can get hurt, and you try to do the right thing, but you want to make sure that you're not going to get sued. So, and with the COVID, I imagine that's, being your property, can be a liability for you. So you have to kind of watch what goes on there, right?
Exactly right. There's liability I didn't realize at first, and might have made a difference if I had known, but what we've got is pretty safe. We've got lighting at night, and we really can't bring a large crowd together there. And well, when we can, but I've got liability. We've got liability concerns with that. But if people come on their own, it really reduces any liability.
So how many people do you think, just a guesstimation, come there in like a week's time? Is it quite a few people? I know it varies.
But it's quite a few people. We have guest books that we have for people to sign, and not everybody signs them. But let me put it this way, just to give you an indication. But in the month of March, Google Maps had 49,000 hits looking for our site in the month of March alone. So that's 49,000 potential visitors, I guess you could say, in 1 month. So yeah, we got a lot of folks. I think it's over 30 countries have been represented here, some several times.
And you're still taking donations for the monument too, as well, are you?
We do. Yeah, we still have people send a little money, and then we do sell T-shirts and stuff online. So
if somebody wanted to make a donation, how would they do that, Dwayne?
I really can't answer that right now. We had what's called a donor box set up. I'm not sure if that's still available, but it may be. We've had a few little changes recently, but if somebody just wants to donate money, you could go to Lynyrd Skynyrd Monument Incorporated and send it. You should be able to send it online. I'm not really up on all that part of the field.
Okay. Lynyrd Skynyrd Monument Incorporated. I'm sure if anybody wanted to get creative and make a donation to the monument, they could probably Google and they could probably find it. It might take a little investigation to do that, and it would be a great thing. And if you haven't been to the monument, there was a lot of work that has gone into that, and it's a really beautiful place. And I think most people, when they go there, really are impressed by that. And so Dwayne donated that piece of land. I think there's a marker by a main road somewhere nearby that it made it a lot easier to find now, isn't it?
Yeah, we were able to get signs put out on the interstate at exit 8, and it's 8 miles west on Highway 568. And then we have signs over here right next, close to the monument, that tells you where to turn. But it's only 8 miles from the interstate.
Okay, well, Dwayne, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know you don't particularly like to do things like like this, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. We had to fiddle with the computer a little bit, to get our connection, and Dwayne was very nice to take the time to do this, and thank you very much, Dwayne. Thank you from all the Lynyrd Skynyrd fans, from all the things that you've done, like, helping get the survivors out of the plane, and then meeting with them later, and starting the monument, and donating that land. And thanks for being on. A lot of people, they know that, that people were first responders and rescued people, but they don't really get to see the people that did it. So that's the reason we wanted to bring you on. And Craig Reed, would like to thank you, and he's asked me to say thank you for coming on, and we appreciate you, all the efforts that you made.
Well, I thank you for having me on here. And let me just say now, there was a group of people that actually made the monument happen. It was quite a lot of work for a lot of people. So the Lynyrd Skynyrd Monument Board is, you know, they all deserve a lot of credit for that, more than me.
Okay, Dwayne. Well, everybody seeing this, you get a chance, you're going up north and you're going to be passing through the Gillsburg area, certainly make it a point to stop by there. Thank you, Dwayne. Really appreciate it. And that's going to close us for the podcast with Dwayne Easley. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you, Dwayne.